Hi everybody, thank you for tuning in to this video. So one of the most challenging things about leading a church through a pandemic is that there's no roadmap for us as pastors. There is no book that you can go and buy or a message you can go and download that gives us a clear step-by-step process through this pandemic. And so it's been very, very challenging for us as pastors. And so part of the goal of this newsletter and videos like this and articles like this is for us just to share with one another so that we can learn from one another. Obviously, all of us have had to really rely on the Lord and seek Him like never before. And God has been so gracious. I'm sure you've all heard testimonies and stories, and even part of your own story of just how God has led you, guided you and your church through these challenging times. But at a more practical level, just kind of, doing church week in, week out, and the decisions that we've got to make about bookings and about services and online and so on. I've found it very helpful just to share with other pastors and to listen to what other pastors and other churches are doing. And so we wanted to do this just in the hope that we can just share thoughts with you that help guide us in the absence of any clear-cut roadmap. And as we are trying to just sense God's heart for what He is doing in our country, in our churches, it's helpful just to share with one another that we may be encouraged, that we may learn, that we may grow together. And so at Lighthouse, one of the things that we have found particularly helpful in recent months has been to just ask three simple questions. Where have we come from? Where are we at the moment? And what is the most likely future going to be? And those are three questions we often ask in terms of leadership and where have we come from, where are we at, where are we going, and so on. And it just helps us then understand where our people are at and what God might be wanting to do in those moments. So, for example, when we look at where we've come from, we're obviously referring to the last 18 months, almost 2 years now of this pandemic. And it's helpful just to look back and remember just all the emotions and all the stuff that people have been through. And it's been hard, it's been challenging for people, both economically, work situations, people that got COVID, people that lost loved ones, and just remembering that it's been the most disruptive time in our lives. Perhaps the more important question is, where are people at now? Where are people at now? There are some people that are so done with COVID, they're over it, and in some ways, their lives have not been that much affected, and they're kind of just moving on with life and so on, but those are probably in the minority. Most of our people in our churches are probably still struggling with stuff. They're still struggling with grief, losing a family member, a friend, a close acquaintance at work to this virus. Many people are stressed more than ever. Fear has become a major issue for a lot of people. Heaviness and depression, a loss of hope for the future and so on. And just the stress of this disruptive nature has taken its toll on a lot of people. Some people are just tired. They're tired physically, they're tired emotionally, they're tired spiritually. They're asking questions about God. They haven't given up on their faith, but their faith has been rocked. And so knowing this helps us just kind of adjust and take stock of where our people are at now. And then where are we going into the future? What is the most likely future scenario going to be? And of course, now we have a new variant in our country, and we're not too sure how that's going to play out, how that's going to affect a fourth wave. It certainly means that we are going to have a fourth wave. We are seeing the numbers rise and escalate quite dramatically as it is. And so there'll probably be a wave that will be quite significant and affect all of our provinces. And thankfully, we can still meet together. Our president didn't have a knee-jerk reaction like many other presidents around the world. But we're going to try and manage this, and there will be a fourth wave, and as all waves do, they go up and down. And so the likelihood of 2022 being probably much like 2021 with restrictions and social distancing protocols in place. But while the infection rate does taper off from a wave and then it remains low for a number of months, into our winter months, we might see another resurgence. More and more people will be vaccinated. And so 2022 is looking better, all things being equal. It's probably looking better whereby we can resume a lot of our church activities. And so asking those three questions really just helps us peg and understand where our people are at and what God may be wanting to do. So for example, looking at where our people have come from, what we have been deliberate about and intentional about at Lighthouse is being gracious and kind to people, because all of us have faced the most disruptive time in our lives. None of us would have expected that we're going to have to live through a pandemic and how it's going to disrupt our lives, disrupt work life, disrupt family life, disrupt schooling of our kids, disrupt church life. And so through the 18 months that have passed through this pandemic, we have been deliberately gracious. We have not asked people where they've been, why have they been back at church. We haven't put any pressure on people. And at the same time, we've also wanted to encourage them in faith, just to hold on, no matter what's going on, to look back and look particularly through the New Testament, where times were hard for the early church. And we can derive strength from that and faith from that, even in these times that have been so challenging and difficult. But then we're asking ourselves, well, where are our people now? Where are people at the moment? And so a lot of people are still, just dealing with the lingering effects of this pandemic, but they're in a place where either we're going to get stuck where we are, or we're going to challenge our people to keep on trusting God, to embrace the future, because our God is always bigger. There's always hope in Him. And in fact, one of the themes of the New Testament is hope. Even at a time where the church was persecuted, even at a time when the church was marginalized, and Christians would have been facing far bigger challenges than we are facing today. Paul, Peter, John, they encouraged the believers to have hope. And so we want to present that challenge to our people. Recently, we did a series at Lighthouse called Reset, and looking at the book of Haggai, and just the challenge to give careful consideration to your ways, not to neglect the house of the Lord, for example, not to neglect our spiritual lives, and to have hope and faith and confidence in the future. One of the questions we asked, is how long will this pandemic last? We can't wait until things are back to normal, until people start coming back to church or whatever. We've got to embrace what God is doing now, even in the tiredness and the fatigue and the stress that people might be feeling. And so understanding where our people are at helps us then say, Lord, what are you saying to our people now? And so just asking that question has helped us sense what God is saying to us. And then into the future, if 2022 is probably going to be similar, but maybe a bit better than 2021, then we know how to plan. And we need to plan, because if we don't plan and we kind of just, we'll wait and see, I think our people are going to get frustrated. God is moving. God is at work. And so we want to embrace that. I think it's better for us to plan and then maybe have to cancel things or adjust things because of lockdown restrictions, if there are any, than not plan and then play catch up. I know we, for example, after the third wave, as things sort of tapered off in the Eastern Cape in August, September, we only started to do our planning then, and so we had a very short window in October and November to actually utilize that for ministry. And we actually missed that because we didn't plan accordingly. And so into next year, we want to plan, and we want to plan for what God may be wanting to do in leading your church into the future. And so embrace that. And so those three simple questions have really helped us as a church, and I trust that might be helpful to you. And so we're going to do this. We're going to keep this newsletter alive, and this will be the last one for this year, but we'll pick it up in the new year. There are further thoughts in an article below. You can click on the link and other information that we hope you'll find helpful. If you've got stories to share and things that have worked for you, maybe you want to contact one of the steering team that you know best, and we'd love to share that just so that we can learn from one another in the days ahead. Look forward to seeing you. We've got some things planned in the new year. We'll let you know in due course. But we're really just trusting God together. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.